Witch's Whisper. Episode 1. Loving yourself is not selfish, it is a responsibility. Produced by Witch Zada. There are nights when silence feels heavier than any sound. You lie in bed, the room dim except for the faint glow of a street lamp filtering through the curtains, and though the world outside continues to move, cars humming in the distance, a neighbor's television faintly buzzing, inside your chest there is only the echo of questions you never dared to ask aloud. Have you ever stood in front of a mirror, water still dripping from your hands after washing your face, the harsh bathroom light revealing the tired lines you no longer recognize, and wondered quietly, almost fearfully, when was the last time I truly cared for myself? The opening of this story is not a grand event. It is not the drama of storms or the crash of disasters. It is found in the small fractures of daily life, the ones that spread so slowly you almost convince yourself they are not there. A mother, still wearing yesterday's fatigue, rushes to prepare breakfast while her shoulders ache from another sleepless night. She sets down the bowl of rice porridge, forces a smile at her child, but the spoon rattles against the bowl because her hand is trembling. A colleague sits at her desk in the office, back perfectly straight, polite smile on her lips, but beneath the surface her chest tightens with stress until breathing feels like carrying bricks. A partner sits at the dinner table, laughing at a joke, his voice light, yet his eyes reveal the weight of weeks without rest. These are not strangers. They are fragments of you. They are reflections of those moments when you gave away everything: time, energy, patience, love, yet forgot to return even the smallest drop to yourself. Perhaps you know this feeling. The smile that hurts your face because it is stretched too long, the polite nod that hides your exhaustion, the constant "yes, I'll handle it," even when your body screams for pause. These small fractures are invisible to most of the world, but inside, you know they are spreading like cracks on glass. Thin lines at first, then deeper, until one day the whole pain threatens to shatter. Pause here with me. Witch's Whisper is not just a story. It is a mirror. I hold it gently before you, steady but unflinching. As you listen, memories may stir. The night you swallowed your tears because you didn't want to trouble anyone. The morning you stood in the shower, water pounding on your skin, hoping it would wash away the heaviness in your chest. The afternoon you looked around at everyone else smiling and thought, why does it feel like I am the only one falling apart? You may have told yourself, I'll be fine. I just need to push through. Others have it worse. I don't have the right to complain. Yet even as you repeated those words, your shoulders tightened, your breath grew shallow, your body whispered the truth you were trying to ignore. You are exhausted, you are lonely, and you are in need of care. Look again into the mirror of this story. Notice how the cracks are not signs of weakness, but signals. They are the body's way of calling for attention, the soul's way of saying, see me. Do not forget me. The tragedy is not that you are fragile, but that you have been trained to believe fragility is unacceptable. Let me ask you directly, when was the last time you allowed yourself to rest without guilt? When was the last time you ate a meal slowly, tasting each bite, instead of rushing so others would be served first? When was the last time you admitted to someone you trust, I cannot carry this alone? Breathe with me for a moment. Inhale. Let the air fill your chest, heavy and alive. Exhale. Release the pressure that you have been holding for too long. Again. Inhale. Exhale. Notice how even this small act feels foreign because you are so used to running, rushing, carrying. But also notice how your body responds, softening ever so slightly, as if saying, thank you. I have been waiting for this. Witch's Whisper wants you to know, you deserve to be seen. You deserve to be held. You deserve to be loved. Not later. Not when you have finished every task. Not when the house is spotless, the reports are done, and the children are asleep. Not when you are thinner, stronger, calmer, or somehow better. But now, exactly as you are, tired, messy, imperfect, and real. The opening of our journey begins with acknowledgement. Acknowledgement that your life has value beyond what you do for others. That your worth is not measured by how much you give until you collapse, but by the simple truth of your being. Tonight, as you hear these words, let them seep into the places that have been starved for tenderness. Because loving yourself is not selfish. It is the foundation upon which every other love can stand. Without it, relationships crumble, bodies collapse, spirits dim. With it, even the smallest actions, drinking a glass of water, saying no, taking one deep breath, becomes sacred rituals of care. And so, as we step into this story together, I invite you to carry one question with you. What would change if I believed I was worthy of love right now, exactly as I am? Have you ever walked into a room filled with people, laughter bouncing off the walls, conversations weaving into a tapestry of noise, and yet felt utterly invisible, as if you were only a shadow moving among them? Have you ever smiled so widely your cheeks ached, not because you felt joy, but because you thought it was expected of you? Because you didn't want to burden anyone with the heaviness you carried inside? Have you ever stayed awake at night, staring at the ceiling while the clock ticked relentlessly forward, replaying every demand, every responsibility, every voice that asked something of you, while the one voice missing was your own? Perhaps you have known what it feels like to say, "I'm fine," when your heart whispered, "I'm breaking." To say, "I'll do it," when your body screamed for rest. To say, "It's okay," when everything inside you longed for someone, anyone, to notice it wasn't. Witch's whisper asks you, when did you first learn that your needs should always come second? Was it in childhood, when you were praised only for being obedient? Was it in school, when you discovered that silence made you safer than honesty? Was it in adulthood, when love and responsibility became tangled, and you believed that to care for yourself was to steal from others? Let these questions settle into you like stones in a pond, each ripple carrying an echo deeper than words. Do not rush to answer. Simply notice how your chest feels, how your breath shifts, how your hands might clench or soften. Because this is not just a podcast. This is a mirror held to the moments you thought no one saw, the quiet sacrifices, the nights you begged yourself to hold on a little longer, the mornings you painted resilience on your face like makeup, the days you convinced yourself your exhaustion was just weakness you had to push past. But let me tell you this truth. You were never weak. You were simply unacknowledged. And tonight, this whisper exists so you cannot hide from yourself any longer. So here is the call to action. Dare to stay with these questions. Dare to let them echo in you. Dare to admit, if only in the safety of your own heart, that you too deserve the same love you have poured so freely into others. Because this story is not about someone else. It is about you. And your journey begins not tomorrow, not in some distant perfect moment, but here, with the courage to listen and to remember. The alarm rings before the sun rises. Its shrill beeping cuts through the fragile silence of the early morning, and her hand, heavy with fatigue, fumbles across the nightstand to silence it. She lies there for a moment, staring at the ceiling where the plaster is slightly cracked, the faint glow of the street lamp still seeping through the blinds. A sigh escapes her lips before she swings her legs over the side of the bed, feet finding slippers whose soles have worn thin. The house is quiet, but it is not restful. It is the kind of quiet that carries responsibility, the kind that demands movement. She ties her hair back in a loose knot, grabs the robe hanging on the chair, and pads toward the kitchen. The air is chilly. She shivers as she switches on the fluorescent light that hums and flickers for a second before holding steady. The kitchen smells faintly of last night's stir-fry, oil still lingering in the air. She fills the kettle and places it on the stove, listening to the low hum as it begins to heat. Her hands move automatically, opening the refrigerator, cracking eggs, slicing bread. The oil in the pan hisses as it meets the eggs, a sharp sizzling that fills the stillness. She sprinkles salt, flips the toast, arranges plates, all with the precision that speaks of years of repetition. From the hallway comes the sound of a backpack dropping to the floor, followed by a child's voice asking where their shoes are. Almost simultaneously, her partner's voice drifts in. "Did you wash my shirt for today?" She calls back, "Yes, it's on the chair," her voice even, carrying no trace of the fatigue pressing down on her shoulders. She smiles as she hands her child a sandwich, kisses the top of their head, and reminds them to eat quickly. She straightens her partner's collar before he leaves, pats his arm with tenderness, and then turns back to the kitchen. The sink is already full of dishes, and the day has barely begun. From the outside, it looks like an ordinary morning, almost picturesque. Breakfast on the table, family members bustling in and out, voices weaving together in a rhythm that seems harmonious. If you were to pass by the window, you might even envy the scene. But inside, beneath the practiced smiles and efficient movements, the truth tells itself differently. Her eyes are bloodshot, her jaw clenches when she thinks no one is watching, and her shoulders slump slightly whenever the room empties for a moment. The day does not slow down. She hurries to catch the bus, clutching her bag with one hand and her coffee with the other. The bus is crowded, the air thick with the smell of perfume, damp coats, and faint exhaust fumes. She stands pressed between strangers, gripping the pole tightly as the vehicle jolts forward. Her reflection in the bus window is pale, her lips pressed into a thin line. She wonders if anyone else notices how tired she looks, but she quickly dismisses the thought. There is no time for vanity, no room for self-pity. The bus lurches to a stop, and she steps off, joining the flood of commuters moving in the same weary rhythm. At work, she slides into her chair, boots clicking on the tile floor. The office buzzes with the sound of keyboards clattering, printers spitting out pages, phones ringing intermittently. A colleague leans over the cubicle wall, smiling sheepishly. "Can you help me finish this report? I'm running behind." The answer is on her tongue before she even thinks about it. Of course. She always says yes. Each yes feels small in the moment, but each one leaves another invisible scratch on her spirit. She spends the morning staring at spreadsheets, typing responses, attending meetings where her voice is polite, calm, and dependable. On the surface, she is the picture of efficiency. Her posture is perfect, her hair neat, her demeanor professional. Inside, however, her chest feels tight, as if every inhale must be forced past a wall. By lunchtime, she realizes she hasn't had a sip of water. By 3 o'clock, her head throbs, but she pushes through, telling herself she can rest later. Later never comes. Evening falls, and she returns home with grocery bags digging into her fingers. The fluorescent light in the kitchen hums again as she sets the bags on the counter, takes off her coat, and begins preparing dinner. The sound of vegetables being chopped echoes against the walls. Her child asks for help with homework while the pot boils over. Her partner complains about a stressful day at work. She stirs the pot, listens, responds, and simultaneously wipes the counter with her sleeve. Dinner is served. Plates are set down. Forks scrape against porcelain, and laughter flickers for a moment before fading into silence. Her partner scrolls through his phone. Her child rushes to finish and run off to play, and she remains at the table, quietly chewing, her mind already moving ahead to the dishes, the laundry, the emails still unanswered. After the meal, the cycle repeats, clearing plates, washing dishes, folding laundry, checking backpacks for tomorrow. The clock on the wall ticks relentlessly forward, marking the hours of her service. And then, late at night, she finally collapses into bed. The sheets are cool against her skin, but her body is restless. The house is quiet again, yet the silence is loud with the weight of everything undone. She stares at the ceiling, replaying the day like a film reel. The yes she couldn't withhold, the tasks she completed, the moments she swallowed her weariness. She thinks this is normal. This is ordinary life. And yet, deep down, she knows it is slowly hollowing her out. Witch's Whisper asks you now, do you recognize yourself in this rhythm? Do you see how the surface shines while beneath it your spirit frays? Have you mistaken exhaustion for responsibility, silence for strength, compliance for love? Ordinary life is what everyone praises, being reliable, being selfless, being endlessly available. But here is the truth you rarely admit. Ordinary life is costing you more than anyone knows. Every day you give away another piece of yourself, and though the world applauds, your soul whispers, I am running dry. This is the truth beneath the mask of normalcy. This is the place where cracks begin. It begins like the soft hum a glass makes before it breaks, the kind of sound you only notice after the shatter. Morning. The pan heats, Oil thins. An egg slides in and hisses. Her child swings their feet under the table, asking for a different kind of jam. From the hallway mirror, her partner calls, "Did you iron my shirt?" She answers yes without turning around, shoulders rising with a kettle's whistle. Milk spills. Keys go missing. The egg burns at the edges, black lace climbing inward. She scrapes too hard, metal against metal, ringing note that makes the room flinch. It is nothing. It is everything. "Mom, can you fix this?" "Where's my folder? Are you listening?" The voices stack. The air smells bitter. The floor is sticky with milk. Her chest tightens the way a knot pulls tight on wet rope. The spatula lands on the counter with more force than she meant, a crack in the morning script. "Do you all think I can do everything at once? Do you even see me?" Silence. Her child's eyes widen. Her partner checks his watch, mutters about traffic, exits. Routine restarts because routine always does, but the air has memories now. She wipes the counter until it shines, and cannot tell if the sting in her eyes is from smoke or shame. Commute. On the bus, she stands with one hand gripping the pole, coffee cooling in the other. Perfume, damp coats, the metallic breath of winter. Her reflection in the window looks like someone who slept inside a storm. She exhales fog onto the glass and traces a small circle with her thumb, as if a window inside a window might let her out. The circle fades before the next stop. Office. Emails multiply. Meetings bloom and wilt. A colleague leans over the partition with a practiced sigh. "I'm drowning. Could you take these slides?" Her mouth makes the shape of yes before her mind votes. "Of course." By noon, her head hums. In the afternoon meeting, a manager says, "Let's keep emotions out of this." When she mentions timelines and workload, something tugs loose inside her, a seam she thought was double-stitched. "Emotions are not the problem," she hears herself say, voice even, hand steady. "Ignoring reality is." The room stills. Pens pause midair. Someone clears a throat and changes the slide. The conversation moves on without acknowledging what happened. The way a river moves around a rock, it will eventually wear down. She writes action items while he climbs her neck, equal parts pride and panic. Afterward, a coworker whispers, "You were brave," then adds, "Careful, though, as if courage were a stain you should scrub out before it sets." Grocery aisle. Fluorescent lights flatten the color out of fruit. She stands too long trying to remember if there is milk left at home. The morning spill replaying with the clarity of a crime scene photo. Her phone buzzes. Partner. "Do you mind picking up my dry cleaning too?" Child. "Need colored paper for a project tomorrow." She types, "Sure," then deletes the word and types it again, as if deleting could change the muscle memory that keeps producing it. In the checkout line, she feels the invisible ledger open. Time, carried, money, counted, self, postponed. Evening. Dinner is edible, conversation serviceable. Forks scrape plates. Her partner scrolls. Her child complains the glue won't stick. She rises and sits, a tide with no moon. When a glass tips over, she flinches, so hard the chair skids. "It's just water," her partner says, half amused. "I know," she answers too quickly, voice thin. "I know." After dishes, after laundry, after locating colored paper under a stack of forgotten mail, she finds the iron still warm from the morning and thinks of the question that started the day. "Did you iron my shirt?" "Yes." "Did you iron yourself flat to make everything else smooth?" "Also yes." Homework table. "Can you do the last question for me?" the child asks, pencil hovering. "No," she says, then softens. "But I can sit with you while you figure it out." The child sighs, annoyed, then begins. 10 minutes later, there is a small triumphant sound, a smile that lifts the whole face. The pride warms her like tea. It also aches. How many times did she teach others to depend on her because she was quicker, quieter, easier than their discomfort? Bathroom mirror. Steam blurs the glass, then clears around the oval of her face. The light is too honest. She touches the place between her eyebrows where a new line has begun to live. A drip from the faucet measures seconds she cannot account for. She says, barely audible, "I am tired," and the mirror does not argue. The sound of the word tired in her own voice startles her more than the morning shout. Bed. Sheets cool, room dark, ceiling a pale rectangle. The day replays in a loop that edits nothing out. The spatula strike, her child's eyes, the sentence in a meeting, the text she didn't want to send and sent. She bargains with herself. Tomorrow I will be softer. Tomorrow I will say yes more quietly. Tomorrow I will not let small things become big ones. Then another voice, new and fragile, asks, what if they were never small? Memories seem. She tries to remember when the first thread loosened. Was it the week she returned to work and learned how to pump behind a locked supply room door? Was it the year her father was sick and she kept 2 calendars, one for appointments, one for feelings she did not have time to feel? Was it childhood, being praised for being so good, a phrase that meant quiet, accommodating, easy to arrange? The past offers many doors. Each opens to a room where a piece of her learned to sit still while holding too much. Metaphor uninvited. She thinks of a sweater snagged on a nail. You keep walking and feel the pull only after the sleeve unravels down the arm. She thinks of a dam whose hairline fracture looks decorative until spring melt comes. She thinks of a violin tuned too tight. It sings clear until the string snaps. She does not like that her life is becoming an inventory of metaphors, but language reaches for help when hands do not. The apology that almost was. She practices a text to her child. Sorry for this morning. Then deletes it because she apologized already, out loud, twice. She drafts a message to her partner. I need more help, and changes it to, could you maybe grab the dry cleaning next time? She writes an email to her manager requesting a realistic timeline, then saves it to drafts, as if courage needs marinating. Small mercy. Before sleep fully takes her, she places a glass of water on the nightstand for the morning version of herself who will wake thirsty. It is the smallest kindness, a breadcrumb on the path back to a person she remembers being. The gesture feels embarrassing in its simplicity and strangely holy at once. Witches whisper to you. Cracks rarely announce themselves with spectacle. They gather in kitchens and conference rooms, in checkout lines and quiet bathrooms, in the half-smile you wear when your mouth says, I'm fine, but your jaw aches from holding it. Have you had a morning where a burnt edge, a missing folder, a careless remark became the exact weight that tipped the scale? Did you scold yourself for overreacting, or did you allow the moment to name itself? The first honest sign that the structure needs tending? The first cracks are not failures. They are invitations. They ask you to pause before the pain shatters, to touch the place that hurts and say, I see you. They ask you to consider that what you called small was merely quiet, and what you called manageable was simply postponed. A hint of the road ahead. Tomorrow will bring its own noise. Some routines will hold, some will not. But she will wake to the glass of water she left herself, and the first sip will taste like a promise so faint she could miss it if she weren't listening. There is another way to move through a day. The crack, once invisible, has given her a line to follow. If you are reading this and hearing your own day echo back to you, do not rush to seal the fracture with more performance. Sit beside it for a breath. Name what it cost you to call it ordinary. Then keep this whisper in your pocket for when the kettle screams and the egg burns and someone asks a small question that feels like a demand. You are not breaking because you are weak. You are breaking because the weight has been real for a very long time. And seeing it is the beginning of relief. The morning after the first crack feels like walking on glass. She wakes before the alarm, as if her body does not trust her to rest too long. The ceiling is a pale rectangle above her, the sheets cool and stiff against her skin. For a moment she imagines staying still, not moving, not answering, not rising, but the thought collapses under the weight of responsibility. The house will call for her soon. Better to meet it first. She tiptoes into the kitchen, determined. Today, she tells herself, there will be no outbursts, no slamming spatulas, no words thrown like stones. She will prove that yesterday was just a fluke, a moment of weakness, a mistake. She cracks the eggs more carefully, wipes the counter as soon as a crumb appears, moves with the precision of someone rehearsing for an audience. When her child spills juice, she breathes in through her nose, out through her mouth, and cleans silently, smile plastered in place. When her partner mutters about missing keys, she answers softly, check the counter, voice even, eyes lowered. On the surface, everything is smooth again, but beneath her ribs, the pressure grows tighter, like taping cardboard over a crack in a dam. At work, she doubles her efforts. She arrives earlier than usual, sits straighter at her desk, nods faster when given instructions. She takes on extra reports, volunteers for tasks before others can. Every yes feels like laying another plank across a collapsing bridge. She tells herself she is rebuilding, showing strength. But by mid-morning her head throbs, the words on the screen blurring. She excuses herself to the bathroom, splashes cold water on her face, stares at the woman in the mirror. "See," she whispers, forcing a smile. "You're fine. You can hold it together." The reflection does not argue, but the water dripping from her chin feels like tears she cannot release. At lunch, a colleague leans over with an apologetic grin. "Could you look over this for me? You're always so thorough." The words sting. Always so thorough. Always so dependable. Always so invisible. She smiles anyway, takes the stack of papers and says, "Of course." By evening, her shoulders ache. The weight of silence is heavier than any argument. At home, she overcompensates. She cooks a bigger dinner than usual, as if abundance could erase the memory of her outburst. She refills glasses before they empty, laughs louder than the joke deserves, listens carefully to every word. Her partner seems relieved, her child more relaxed. The air feels normal again. She convinces herself this is proof. The crack has been sealed. But in the quiet of the kitchen, scraping plates into the sink, she feels the truth pressing down. Her hands tremble slightly as she scrubs, soap bubbles clinging to her skin. The sound of the faucet drowns out her thoughts, but the silence underneath is unbearable. She bites her lip until it hurts, whispering again, "See? You're fine. You can hold it together." The nights are worse. She lies in bed, replaying every detail of the day. The smile she forced, the silence she maintained, the yes she gave too easily. She lists them like beads on a rosary, each one an act of penance. She should feel proud. She made it through without breaking. But instead, she feels hollow. Pretending to be unbroken has drained her more than breaking ever did. The ceiling fan hums. The streetlight glows faintly through the blinds. She stares into the dark, body tense, mind replaying yesterday's spatula slam. Shame floods her chest. You should never have shouted. You should have been better. But alongside shame is another whisper, faint but insistent. At least they saw you. At least for one moment you were visible. She turns on her side, pulling the blanket tight, as if she can smother the voice before it grows louder. Days blur into each other. She begins to measure time not by the clock, but by how long she can go without showing the crack again. 2 days smooth. 3 days calm. For days, a sharp word almost slips, but she swallows it with water. She keeps track as if it were sobriety, an addiction to silence, a streak she must not break. Each day adds weight, and the streak becomes a cage. In the grocery store, she stands in line with milk and bread, phone buzzing in her hand. Messages pile up. Did you get the dry cleaning? Don't forget the project materials. She types sure again and again, the word automatic, meaningless. She deletes it once, hesitates, then types it again. Saying yes feels easier than the storm that might follow now. But every yes carves another line across her chest, invisible to everyone but her. The body keeps the score. Headaches return. Shoulders knot. Sleep slips further away. She wakes at 3 a.m., heart racing, sweat dampening the sheets. She sits on the edge of the bed, breathing shallow, waiting for her pulse to slow. In the mirror across the room, her face looks ghostly in the streetlight glow. She whispers again, "You're fine. Just hold it together." The words feel emptier each time. Her appetite shrinks. Coffee becomes her anchor, though it leaves her jittery and hollow. Her hands shake when she tries to write a note for her child's teacher. She hides them under the table, ashamed of evidence she cannot control. The metaphors multiply. She feels like a dam patched with tape. Every yes, another strip pressed down, water pressing harder behind it. Like a sweater unraveling thread by thread, each tug invisible until the sleeve falls apart. Like a candle burning from both ends, flame steady but wax disappearing faster than she can replace it. She lives inside metaphors because they are safer than the truth. She is falling apart. Witches whisper to you. Struggle often looks like survival. You smile wider. You say yes faster. You scrub harder. You hold yourself together until your body trembles with the effort. Have you ever lived like this? More afraid of breaking again than of the exhaustion it takes to pretend you are whole? Have you ever called that exhaustion strength because the world rewarded you for silence? Listen carefully. The struggle is not your failure. It is your signal. Your body and your soul are telling you that the cost is already too high. You are not weak for feeling the weight. You are human for carrying it. And the crack you hide is not shameful. It is a doorway, waiting for you to stop pretending long enough to walk through. It does not collapse all at once. It stretches, spreads, multiplies, like cracks running through old paint, thin lines at first, then branching until the whole wall feels unstable. At home, the tension thickens. One evening, her child complains about homework, tossing the pencil across the table. She picks it up, places it back, and says too sharply, "Just focus." The child glares, mutters, "You're always mad." The words land like stones. She wants to explain, to tell them it isn't anger but exhaustion, but the words stick. Later, when she tucks them into bed, they turn away from her touch. The rejection feels heavier than any outburst. Her partner notices too. "You've been short-tempered lately," he says, scrolling through his phone, tone half accusation, half detachment. She swallows her defense, offers a tired smile. Inside, the silence screams. At work, the cracks spread further. She makes a mistake in a report, one number misplaced, one deadline missed. The manager frowns, disappointment cutting sharper than anger. "That's not like you." The phrase repeats in her head all day. Not like you. Not like you. She wonders who she is now. The dependable one, the invisible one, the one unraveling behind her tidy desk. When a colleague asks, "Are you okay?" she laughs too quickly, says, "Just tired." The laugh sounds brittle, glass about to shatter. The colleague doesn't push further. She both longs for and dreads someone seeing through her. With friends, it is no better. A message pops up. "We haven't seen you in weeks. Are you avoiding us?" She types, "Just busy," then deletes, then types it again. She scrolls past their photos, gatherings she was not at, smiles she did not share. A pang of jealousy mixes with relief. To show up would mean pretending again. To stay away means being forgotten. Both feel unbearable. Her body rebels. Sleep fractures. She wakes at odd hours, chest tight, jaw clenched. Coffee no longer helps. It shakes her hands, rattles her heart. She skips meals without noticing, then binges late at night, chewing quickly, tasting nothing. Her skin breaks out. Her back knots like twisted rope. The body is speaking in a language she has ignored too long. At the doctor's office, she nearly admits the truth, nearly says, "I feel like I'm falling apart." Instead, she says, "Just stress." The doctor nods, prescribes rest, something for the headaches. She leaves with a paper bag of pills and the same unspoken weight. The house at night. Dishes clink in the sink. She scrubs harder than necessary, water splashing her sleeves. The smell of detergent stings her nose. Her partner asks casually, "Why are you so tense? Can't you just relax?" She almost laughs at the absurdity. Relax? The word feels like a foreign country. Later, in bed, he turns to sleep easily while she lies awake, staring at the ceiling fan turning slow circles. The darkness hums with unfinished tasks and unsaid words. She presses her hand against her chest, feeling her heartbeat thud like a warning drum. The inner dialogue. One voice whispers, "Hold it together. Don't let anyone see." Another whispers louder, "They don't see you anyway." The two voices clash until she no longer knows which is hers. The metaphors return. Her life feels like a building leaning just slightly, invisible to most, but she feels the tilt every time she walks its halls. Like water seeping into a foundation, silent, unseen, but inevitable, like a web of cracks spreading across glass, waiting for the one touch that will send it shattering. Witches whisper to you. When the conflict deepens, it is not because you are weak. It is because your soul refuses to let you keep lying. Have you noticed how the body tells the truth even when the mouth says, "I'm fine"? Have you seen how silence grows heavier the longer you try to carry it alone? The cracks spreading are not punishments. They are signals. They are the way your being insists. Look at me. Listen to me. Do not keep pretending I am whole when I am breaking. This is the point where many turn away, afraid of the shatter. But Witch's Whisper tells you, the shatter is not the end. It is the doorway. Pause. Before we go further, before the cracks spread wider and the weight grows heavier, I want you to stop here with me. This is not just a story about her. It is also a story about you. And right now, your body, your heart, your soul deserve a breath. Close your eyes if you can. Feel the chair or the bed beneath you. Notice how it carries your weight without asking anything in return. You have been carrying so much, responsibilities, expectations, unspoken fears, and for a few minutes, you do not need to carry them alone. Inhale slowly. Feel the air moving in through your nose, filling your lungs. Notice the way your shoulders rise, the way your chest expands. Exhale gently, letting your body soften. Again, inhale, deeper this time. Imagine the breath as light, cool, and steady, flowing into the places inside you that have felt clenched for too long. Exhale, and with it, release one piece of the heaviness you've been holding. Perhaps you did not realize until now how tired you truly are. Perhaps even this small act of breathing feels strange, almost uncomfortable, as though your body has forgotten how to rest. That is normal. You have been asked to endure more than most can see. Witch's Whisper wants you to imagine this. There is a candle in front of you. Its flame is steady, golden, small but unwavering. As you breathe in, picture that flame growing brighter. As you breathe out, imagine the warmth of the flame spreading through your chest, softening the tightness there. Each inhale feeds the flame. Each exhale lets its light seep deeper into you. Now imagine placing your hands gently over your heart. Feel the steady beat beneath your palm. That rhythm is your proof. You're alive. You are here. You are not forgotten. Whisper to yourself, even if only inside, I deserve to be here. I deserve to rest. I deserve to be loved. Stay with these words. Repeat them slowly. I deserve to be here. I deserve to rest. I deserve to be loved. If tears rise, let them. Tears are not weakness. They are the body's way of unclenching, of releasing what words cannot. Picture yourself standing in a forest at twilight. The air smells of pine and damp earth. A soft wind moves through the trees, carrying the sound of rustling leaves. In the distance, you see a clearing lit by fireflies, their glow like tiny lanterns guiding you forward. Step into that clearing. Feel how the ground steadies under your feet, how the air feels gentler here. This is your space, a place where no one asks, no one demands, no one judges. Here, you are simply you. Stay a while. Listen to the quiet. Feel your body remembering what it means to belong to yourself. Witches whisper to you. You are not broken for needing this pause. You are not selfish for craving rest. You are human, and humans were never meant to run endlessly without stopping. If the world has convinced you otherwise, let this moment remind you. The pause itself is sacred. Carry this breath with you. When the noise rises again, when the demands pull at you, return here. Return to the candle, to the hand on your chest, to the words, I deserve to be here. I deserve to rest. I deserve to be loved. It begins on a night like any other, or so it seems. Dinner has been cleared, dishes stacked in the sink, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound in the kitchen. Her partner is in the living room watching television, her child tucked into bed after a half-hearted story. She stands alone at the sink, hands submerged in soapy water, scrubbing at a pan that refuses to come clean. The bubbles cling stubbornly, the grease resists, and with each motion her shoulders ache. She stops. For the first time in days, perhaps weeks, she simply lets the pan slip back into the water. The clatter startles her. She grips the edge of the counter, breath ragged. The truth rises in her throat before she can swallow it back. I can't keep doing this. The admission is silent, but it is seismic. It echoes through her chest like a bell, vibrating in the spaces she has ignored for too long. She turns off the faucet, wipes her wet hands on a towel, and walks to the bathroom mirror. Steam from the earlier shower has fogged the glass, leaving streaks like rivers down its surface. She wipes a circle clear with her palm and stares at herself. Not the mask, not the smile, not the careful posture, just herself. The shadows under her eyes, the tension in her jaw, the curve of her shoulders bent under invisible weight. And for the first time, instead of whispering "you're fine, you can hold it together," she whispers something else. Her voice trembles, but it is steady enough to be heard. "I am tired. I need help." The words shock her, not because they are dramatic, but because they are true. She says them again, louder, as if to test whether the walls will collapse under their weight. "I am tired. I need help." No one rushes in. The ceiling doesn't fall. The mirror doesn't break. The world doesn't end. And in the silence that follows, she feels something she hasn't felt in years: relief. The next morning, the change is small, almost invisible. She sits at the table with her child, toast on a plate before her. Normally, she would stand, hovering, fussing, rushing. But today she sits, bites into her own breakfast, and lets herself taste it. The butter melts into the bread, warm and soft. Her child looks at her curiously. "You're eating with me?" "Yes," she answers simply. The child smiles, and it is as though a seed has been planted. Later, when her partner asks if she can run another errand after work, she hesitates. The word yes almost leaps out of habit, but she pauses, counts her breath, and says, "Not today. I need some rest." Her partner blinks, surprised, but doesn't argue. The world, again, does not collapse. At work, she tries something new. Instead of volunteering for an extra task, she lets the silence stretch until someone else speaks. Her fingers twitch, her heart races, but she holds back. The relief is subtle, like loosening a belt after a meal, but it is real. That evening, she lights a candle. Not for anyone else, not for decoration, but for herself. She watches the flame flicker, golden and alive, and whispers, "This is for me." She sits in silence for 10 minutes, hands wrapped around a warm cup of tea, letting the quiet settle into her bones. The candle's light feels like company. Witches whisper to you. The turning point rarely looks like fireworks. It often begins with a whisper in the bathroom mirror, with one piece of toast eaten slowly, with one errand refused, with one candle lit just for yourself. Do not dismiss these as small. Small is sacred. Small is where the tide turns. Have you ever dared to say out loud, even if only to yourself, "I am tired. I need help"? Have you ever allowed yourself to stop performing strength for just one moment? If not, let this be your invitation. Whisper it now. Whisper it as softly or as loudly as you can. "I am tired. I need help." Notice how your chest responds. Notice how your shoulders shift. Notice how even the act of speaking the truth is a form of rest. This is the beginning of change, not perfection, not an overnight miracle, just the fragile, powerful act of honesty. Practices and healing. The morning after her whispered confession, she begins again. The sun creeps through the blinds, soft and pale, brushing across the floorboards. Normally, she would rise instantly, rushing into routine. But today, she lingers. She sits on the edge of the bed, feet pressing into the carpet, and allows herself 3 slow breaths. Inhale, exhale, again. For the first time, the day begins with her breath, not with her alarm. It feels awkward, almost indulgent. She catches herself thinking, I should be up already. I should be cooking. But she stays. 3 breaths, then 5, then 10. When she finally stands, something feels different. Not lighter, not easier, but steadier, like she has anchored herself before the storm. The first practice is breath. At work, when her inbox overflows, she closes her eyes for just a moment. One hand rests on her lap, the other on her chest. Inhale, shoulders rising. Exhale, shoulders falling. A colleague notices, asks if she's all right. She smiles faintly and says, I'm just breathing. The colleague chuckles, but she doesn't mind. For the first time, she doesn't apologize for the pause. Witches whisper to you. Try it now. Place your hand on your chest. Inhale slowly, as if the air itself were a gift. Exhale as if you are releasing stones you have carried too long. Even one breath can shift the tide. The second practice is saying no. It happens on a Tuesday. Her partner asks if she can handle his errands after work. The word yes almost slips out, reflexive, but she pauses. She counts her breath. Not today, she says. I need to rest. Her partner raises an eyebrow but shrugs. The world, once again, does not collapse. That evening she sits with her child, reading a story instead of running to the store. The laughter they share feels like proof. Every no to the unnecessary is a yes to what matters. Witches whisper to you. Where can you practice one no this week? Not a cruel no, not a selfish no, but a no that protects the flame of your energy. Say no to what drains so you can say yes to what feeds you. The third practice is nourishment. She shops differently now. Instead of rushing through aisles, grabbing whatever is cheapest or fastest, she lingers. She picks up fruit, feels its weight in her hand, inhales the sweetness. She chooses not just what will feed others, but what will feed her. At home, she slices an apple for herself and eats it slowly, noticing the crunch, the burst of juice, the way her body thanks her for the attention. Witches whisper to you. When was the last time you ate something slowly, for no one but yourself? Try it. Let your senses awaken. Let food remind you that care can be delicious, simple, holy. The fourth practice is ritual. One night, after the house falls quiet, she lights a single candle. She places it on the table, turns off the lights, and sits in silence. The flame flickers, golden and alive, casting soft shadows on the walls. She wraps her hands around a warm cup of tea and whispers, "This is for me." She sits for 10 minutes, listening to the sound of her own breath, watching the flame dance. The ritual becomes her anchor. Each night, she returns to it, a small ceremony of presence. Witches whisper to you. Create one ritual that belongs only to you. It might be a candle, a journal, a walk at sunset. Mark it with intention. This is mine. This is my way of remembering myself. The fifth practice is writing. She finds an old notebook tucked in a drawer, its pages still crisp. At night, she writes 3 sentences. One thing she felt, one thing she needs, one thing she is grateful for. At first, the words feel clumsy, but soon they begin to flow. I felt tired. I need rest. I am grateful for my child's smile. She closes the notebook and feels a small release, as if the page has absorbed what she could not say aloud. Witches whisper to you. Tonight, write 3 sentences. Don't worry about eloquence. Simply give your heart a place to speak. Words on paper are threads pulling you back to yourself. Her body responds. Headaches ease slightly. Sleep comes more gently. Not every night, but enough. She notices her shoulders relax in moments they once tensed. She smiles without forcing it. Her child notices too. You look different, Mom. She laughs softly. Maybe I am. Witches whisper to you. Healing is not instant. It is not a straight line. It is a practice, a rhythm, a return. Do not measure your worth by speed. Measure it by presence. Every breath, every no, every candle, every word written, it all matters. Because loving yourself is not selfish. It is the soil from which everything else grows. Transformation. At first, the change is quiet, almost invisible. She still wakes to the same alarm, still makes breakfast, still commutes to work. But something in her rhythm has shifted. The mornings no longer begin with rushing. They begin with breath. She sits on the edge of her bed, feet pressing into the floor, and gives herself space for 10 inhalations. It is not much, but it is everything. When she walks to the kitchen, she feels her body steadier, less like a machine running on fumes, more like a person reclaiming her own pace. Her child notices first. One morning, between spoonfuls of cereal, they look up and say, "You're smiling, Mom." She blinks, surprised. She hadn't forced it. The smile had come on its own, rising from somewhere deeper than performance. At work, colleagues begin to sense the difference too. She still works hard, but she no longer says yes to everything. When asked to take on another task, she pauses, breathes, and says, "I can't add that right now." The first time she does it, her heart races, expecting backlash. But instead, someone else volunteers. The meeting moves on. She realizes the sky does not fall when she protects her limits. With each no, she feels stronger, clearer, more present. Her partner notices in subtler ways. She no longer waits until midnight to collapse in exhaustion. Instead, she lights her candle, sips her tea, and sits quietly, inviting silence as a guest rather than an enemy. At first he teases, "Since when are you into rituals?" But then he grows quieter, watching. One evening he joins her, sitting across from the candle without speaking. The flame reflects in both their eyes. It feels like a new language, one she didn't know they could share. Her body transforms with her. Headaches no longer pound daily. Her sleep deepens. She wakes with fewer aches, with more space inside her chest. Food tastes different. An apple is no longer just fuel but sweetness savored. She finds herself laughing more, and the sound feels lighter, less strained, carrying into the corners of the room. Her home shifts too. The air feels less tense, less brittle. There are still arguments. Her child still complains about homework, her partner still forgets keys, but the explosions no longer break her. She meets them with steadiness, sometimes even with humor. "The keys are where you always leave them," she says, and instead of clenching her jaw, she laughs. Her family laughs too. The house feels warmer. Her energy expands. Friends begin to reach out again. This time she doesn't decline automatically, nor does she agree out of guilt. She chooses. When she meets them for coffee, she listens with presence rather than exhaustion. They notice. "You seem lighter," one friend says. She smiles. "Maybe I finally started listening to myself." She does not need to announce her transformation. It speaks through her eyes, through the calm of her voice, through the way she carries herself. Inside, the metaphors change. She no longer feels like a cracked glass or an unraveling sweater. She feels like soil that has been watered, roots stretching deeper, holding her steady. She feels like a candle whose flame no longer threatens to burn out, but grows steadier with each breath. She feels like a river, once dammed, now flowing freely, carrying away the silt of years of silence. Witches whisper to you, this is what transformation looks like. Not perfection, not endless joy, not a life free from conflict. Transformation is steadiness where there was once trembling. It is clarity where there was once confusion. It is laughter that rises naturally, not forced. Have you ever imagined what your life could be if you gave yourself permission to change? Not all at once, not with grand gestures, but with breath, with boundaries, with rituals, with truth. This is your invitation. Your life can transform. 2. Transformation is not a single act. It is a series of choices, repeated until they become a new rhythm. Every breath you take with awareness, every no that protects your energy, every ritual that honors your being, each one reshapes the landscape of your life. And when you look back, you will realize it was never selfish to love yourself. It was the most responsible act you could take. Integration. It has been weeks since the first crack, and the days no longer feel like a battle for survival. They feel like a rhythm, imperfect, shifting, but hers. The mornings are different now. She still wakes early, but she no longer launches herself into duty. She sits first, feet grounded on the floor, palms resting on her knees. 10 breaths, always 10, a small ritual that anchors her. Sometimes her child wanders in, rubbing sleep from their eyes.
"What are you doing?" they ask.
She smiles, breathing. Sometimes the child joins her, mimicking her inhales and exhales. The sight of their shoulders rising and falling together makes her chest ache, but this time with tenderness, not exhaustion. At work, integration shows itself in pauses. She no longer volunteers for every task. When requests come, she weighs them. She has learned the sacredness of hesitation. Sometimes she says yes, sometimes no. The difference is that the choice is hers. Her colleagues adjust. They respect her boundaries more than she expected. One even confides, "I've started trying what you do," taking a breath before I answer. Change ripples outward, unspoken but real. At home, integration takes quieter forms. She lights her candle each evening. At first it was an act of rebellion, a statement. "This is for me." Now it is simply what she does, as ordinary as brushing her teeth. The flame no longer feels fragile. It feels inevitable. Her partner sometimes joins, sometimes not. Either way, she no longer lights it for anyone else's approval. She lights it because it reminds her who she is. Her child, too, notices the shifts. They lean against her shoulder more often, share their worries more freely. "You're calmer," they say one night, half asleep. She strokes their hair and whispers, "Maybe because I finally learned to care for me." The words feel like a lesson she wishes she had received earlier, one she now hopes to pass on. Integration shows in the body. The headaches are fewer. The tension in her jaw softens. Sleep returns in longer stretches. She no longer jolts awake at 3 a.m. with her heart racing. When anxiety comes, she meets it with breath, hand on chest, grounding herself before the storm grows. Her body remembers how to rest, how to trust. Integration shows in choices. She shops with intention, choosing food that nourishes. She journals at night, even when tired, writing 3 sentences that tether her to herself. She protects her energy, not with walls, but with boundaries that breathe. She no longer explains or justifies every no. She trusts that her worth does not hinge on others' approval. Integration shows in relationships. Conversations with her partner deepen. They are not perfect. Arguments still flare, but she no longer folds herself into silence. She speaks with clarity, listens with openness. Sometimes he resists, but sometimes he mirrors her, practicing honesty instead of avoidance. Slowly, their connection feels less like a contract of duties and more like a meeting of souls. Her friendships shift too. She chooses fewer gatherings, but attends with full presence. She laughs, listens, shares. Her friends remark, "You seem more yourself." She smiles, because that is exactly what has returned. The metaphors change again. She no longer feels like glass taped together. She feels like clay reshaped, still marked by the hands that pressed her, but stronger, truer. She no longer feels like a candle burning at both ends. She feels like a hearth, steady flame at the center, warming rather than consuming. She no longer feels like a dam on the verge of collapse. She feels like a river that has learned to carve new paths, flowing with patience, persistence, grace. Witches whisper to you. Integration is when change becomes ordinary. When the ritual is no longer a rebellion, but a rhythm. When the boundary is no longer a fight, but a fact. When the love you give yourself is not a question, but a given. Have you noticed how transformation often feels fragile at first, like it might disappear if you stop paying attention? Integration is the moment you realize, this is who you are now. Not perfect, not invincible, but whole, steady, present. Your task is not to chase constant improvement. Your task is to keep choosing presence. To keep saying yes where it matters, no where it drains, and breath where silence once suffocated. That is integration. That is how love for yourself becomes the soil of your life, nourishing everything that grows around you. When the story draws to a close, it does not end with a perfect resolution. There are still mornings when she wakes tired, still nights when her thoughts circle too loudly. There are still moments when her child spills juice, when her partner forgets, when her body aches from old habits. But now, the difference is this. She no longer mistakes these moments as proof of her failure. She sees them as part of the rhythm of being human. She has learned that cracks do not mean collapse. They mean the structure is alive, shifting, asking for attention. She has learned that struggle is not weakness, but the soul's way of demanding truth. She has learned that transformation does not erase pain, but it weaves it into strength. The echoes of her journey ripple outward. In her home, there is more laughter. At work, there is more respect. In her friendships, there is more presence. But most importantly, in her own chest, there is more room. The air moves differently inside her now, less tight, less frantic, more open. She lights her candle every night. The flame has become more than wax and wick. It is a reminder, a companion. Sometimes she whispers, "This is for me." Sometimes she whispers nothing at all, just breathes, and that is enough. Witches whisper to you. As you reach this ending, I want you to pause and listen to the echoes in your own life. Where are your cracks? Where have you been struggling, taping yourself together, pretending to be fine? And what might happen if you chose, even once, to say, "I am tired. I need help. I deserve love." Do not rush away from these words. Let them settle like seeds in soil. They may feel small now, but given time, they will grow. They will grow into breath, into boundaries, into rituals, into relationships that no longer starve you. Remember, loving yourself is not selfish. It is not indulgence. It is responsibility. Because when you are nourished, you can love more deeply, give more freely, stand more firmly. When you are whole, you do not just survive, you shine, and your light guides others home. Call to action. If this story touched you, if it reminded you of places in your own life where the cracks are calling, I invite you to take action. Subscribe, save this episode, share it with someone you love, someone who needs a reminder that they, too, deserve to rest, to be seen, to be cherished. Your support is not only for me, it is for every soul who is waiting for a whisper to tell them they are not alone. And if you feel you need deeper assistance, know that we are here. Whether it is the pairing of crystals to support your energy, the crafting of a personal magical crystal energy bottle, or the sacred companionship of unseen allies, you are welcome to reach out. We can walk with you into partnerships with Eastern and Western spirits, sacred amulets, higher beings of light, guardians such as angels, unicorns, Pegasi, mermaids, dragons, and more. If you are seeking guidance, if you feel interference that weighs heavy on your path, if you long for companionship on your spiritual journey, know this: you are not alone. We are here. Final echo. Take one last breath with me. Inhale. Let the air remind you that you are alive. Exhale. Let the heaviness slip from your shoulders. Whisper, if you can, "I deserve to be here. I deserve to rest. I deserve to be loved." Carry these words with you. Carry them into your morning, into your work, into your relationships, into your nights. Let them echo when the cracks appear again, when struggle returns, when silence feels heavy. Because now you know, you are not broken. You are becoming, and the becoming itself is sacred.